everyone, welcome to our live stream.
This is episode 123, setting up your Matrix device with Chirp.
I'm Submarine, by the way.
I'm Carlos.
And Carlos is going to take it away, and I'm just here to, be mental support, I suppose.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so to get started, well, we're going to just show you the setup we have right now. So I'm going to move the camera down here. So what we're going to do this on is a Matrix Creator with a speaker plugged in via audio jack. This also works with the Matrix Voice. It works for either one. And inside we have some dependencies pre-installed. So we're gonna show you that right now. So let me go here. You think you can switch to the guide on the right?
Yeah, I got you. So we'll switch to the screen.
All right, all good?
Yep.
Okay. So right here, what we have is we have the Hackster guide that was just released before this live stream, and a terminal that's SSH'd into the Raspberry Pi. For those of you that don't know, that just means that all the commands we run here are running directly on the Pi. You can look up tutorials for that. They're all over. Super easy to set up. All right, so looking at the actual guide. If we scroll down, we have all the components we need, your Matrix device, Raspberry Pi, as well as the software we're using, which is the Chirp's SDK. We're going to be using the Python SDK, just to give you a heads up. So, all right, we have all the hardware. Now we're going to move to the Let's Get Started section. So there are the links to setting up the creator if you haven't before. A link as well to enable SSHing on your Pi, and then the actual dependencies. So we've already installed these dependencies, but I'm going to go over what each one does. For the first one, you add the Matrix repository to your source on the Raspberry Pi, so you can install packages from our repo. The second line here installs those packages that we want for HAL and to install some programming libraries, as well as the Python package manager. After that, we're going to upgrade pip, the package manager we just installed, as well as install the Matrix Lite Python library. And then once that's done, we're going to reboot and then install the kernel modules, which allow us to use microphones. Reboot one more time, and then install the Chirp dependencies, as well as the Chirp SDK. And then once that's done, you're good to go. You actually have Chirp installed, and all that's left is to set up your account. So that's what we're going to actually go through here. Because for that, you can just copy and paste, and here's where
Continue.
No, it's all good. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is that now that we have the Chirp SDK installed, we're gonna go to their developer website. So that's we have the link here, but it's developers.chirp.io, and then you're gonna log in with an account. So I'm just gonna sign in with a Gmail, really quick. All right. So what we're going to do from here is that you can actually choose the kind of configuration you want. And for those of you that don't know, which we probably should have mentioned earlier, what Chirp does is it allows you to send data through audio. So you can have devices communicate with each other by only using sound. So that's basically, you can send any kind of payload. They have examples on transferring basic messages. I think there's examples on actually transferring files. Granted, the rate's going to be a bit lower through audio, but it's still doable, and it's a lot more reliable than Wi-Fi in some cases. So right here, when you go to My Virtuoso application, you can choose a configuration you want. So you have 16 kilohertz, 16 kilohertz mono, standard, and ultrasonic. For this one, we're going to use standard, but feel free to choose whichever one you want. So we're going to save. That just means that I think that means when we refresh the page, it'll just default to standard. And on the right side where you see credentials, you're going to put those on your Raspberry Pi, and by default, Chirp will know that, okay, these credentials tell me that it's your account and what kind of configuration you have set up. So if you go here to the bottom where you have all the SDKs, we're going to choose Python, and then copy to clipboard. And then now we're going to move to the terminal on the Raspberry Pi. So you're going to type in nano ~.chirp_rc. And then you're just going to paste that in there. So there we go, paste.
Yeah, so one thing is remember to click on the Python tab, because I had forgotten to do that once and it didn't work, and I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, it's there on the bottom. It's super simple. So Control X to save out of nano, press Y to agree, enter to save the name, and that should be it. Chirp is now set up and installed on our device. Let me go back to the guide. Yep, we did that, all that there. And now that Chirp is set up with the Python SDK, this also includes the CLI tool. So what's nice is that we can do chirp dash send dash u for Unicode, which means that we're going to send some text. Let's put like hello world, and that should play through our speakers right now. There we go. So that was a chirp. That's all it was. So now that we can send chirps, we're going to show you how to receive chirps as well. So we're going to open a new window. I'm going to do it horizontally here. There we go. So the top one is going to be sending it. The bottom one is going to be reading it. So I'm going to SSH into the Pi one more time. So let me get in there again. So the command was chirp dash receive, receiving Unicode, so dash U. And we're going to do dash I3, which means we're going to select the third input device. And I'll show you what that means right now. So dash I3 means that we're using matrix IO sound, which is our microphone array. And all this is documented on the guide, so you know that should all be clear over there. And now every chirp we send will be read in that terminal. So we're gonna send the hello world again, and we just received the chirp. So yeah.
Yeah, so I think that part of your terminal might be covered, but people should still be able to see that you received it. Oh. Like the bottom part, because our video's there, you see?
Oh, I see.
yeah, but people can still see.
Oh, let me move that up again. There we go. That would be a bit better. Okay. I mean, I could just scroll up a bit. Yeah, you should have seen the microphone array. The command, it's also on the documentation there, or in the Hackster guide. So easy to follow along. So yeah, that's all we need. So I'm going to close out of this. So now that we can actually send chirps through the CLI tool, we're going to use Python. So if we go back here, we actually provide 2 Python scripts for sending and receiving chirps. So I'm going to go over that right now. So I'm going to open up CyberDuck so we can show it a bit nicer. So let me create a file. Here we go. New file. Call it receive.py. So for those of you that don't know, this is just creating, this is all happening on the Raspberry Pi, but I'm doing it through a tool called CyberDuck, so it looks a bit nicer on our end. So, you know, I can use my preferred editor instead of a terminal editor. So, you know, we have some better color coding. So I'm going to copy all the code here and explain what what everything does here. So paste. There we go.
Zoom in a little.
Okay, I think it should be good. So,
yeah.
All right, just to go in, you know, pretty simple. All this is also documented on Chirp's side, but you know, we also have it here, so you can just quickly copy and paste an example. We're going to print. Oh, wait, here we go. So we're going to import the libraries as well as Matrix Lite because Matrix Lite supports Python. We're just going to use the LED library for that. We're going to make a Chirp instance. This section right here just prints out some metadata of the Chirp, you know, like what protocol you're using, the version of the SDK installed. Right here, this shows the entire list of audio devices, like when we selected the output for the mics. And the line over here selects a third mic, which for us and for you as well should be...
Oh, do you want to remove the VS Code warning message?
Oh, that's all good.
Just getting some comments here and there.
And then, okay, so this part right here for class callbacks, we're basically, for those of you that might be more familiar with Node, it's kind of like setting event listeners. So on receive means all the code in there is going to run when a chirp message is fully received. And on receiving means that while it's reading a chirp message, because it's not instant, you can, you know, print something or, you know, run whatever code you want. So here we're just going to say, hey, when a chirp is being read, we're going to say, hey, we're reading a chirp. And when it's being received, if we actually read the data, we're going to decode the message, print what kind of message we got, and then assuming, you know, we're going to manually assume that it's a color that was written, set the LEDs on the matrix device to whatever color was set. And then right here is where we actually apply the events that we're listening for. And this is where the service actually starts. So we're telling it this script is not going to send anything, and it will be receiving chirps. And the code is non-blocking, so that means that when you know, you're listening at least, if you don't have like a loop or something to stop the code from ending, it'll just end. So you need something to, you know, keep the program going. So here we just have a simple for loop going with a little sleep delay, you know, writing dots every 0.1 seconds. And I forgot what flush did. I think it was like I can't remember what Flush did, but I think it was like...
I feel like it's a refresh type thing, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I forgot. But that's pretty much it. And, once it exits, down here, if you close the program, it'll stop the Chirp service. And that's pretty much it. So I'll save that. So that should be good to go. I'm going to close... Yeah, I'm just going to drag that down here. We don't need that right now. So now... Oh, you know what? I should have actually kept the other terminal. So let me bring that back and SSH again. Okay, so we're going to run the Python script. So Python 3, because that's what we're using. Receive.py. There we go. And there you see the dots that we were mentioning. So now, if you can switch to the... Is it using this one?
Yeah, what I can do is I can switch to the computer plus this camera.
Okay,
so they can see
perfect.
The computer screen and this.
Okay, so just to demonstrate it live, we're going to... So we're going to send a chirp through the CLI tool. So I'm just going to do chirp-send Unicode and whatever color we want. So I'm going to say red, and here we go. There we go.
Yeah.
So, this is like an example of how you can just pass in data easily, without Wi-Fi, just relying on audio alone. Since this is using RAPI, we can, just directly send in whatever string to the color, and it'll just get red.
Oh, you know what's
right
also cool? I can interfere, and it'll still work. Well, sometimes. Hello, 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 interference, interference, interference. Oh, yeah!
So, yeah, pretty much. Just whatever. Let me see. I'll turn that off right now. So, put black. And there we go.
Nice.
So, and you can see, you're also reading on the terminal down here of like what's being read. So that's like a really quick example. And, to automate that, we also have the send.py. So if you want a programmatic way of doing this, I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to make a new file as well. So back to CyberDuck. Let me just make the file for sending it. Send.py. There we go. So I'm going to copy and paste the code here. There you go. Save that. And same situation as before. The creating the Chirp instance, logging data, and there are more events than that were before. So these events are different. So on a message being fully sent and on a message currently sending, you can listen to those events. Setting the callbacks, starting it, and then here the logic is slightly different. We have a counter and a color. So running forever, it's just gonna, send either green or red as a chirp message, and then just, toggle between those two forever, just to, show that you can do it. So if I do Python 3 send.py, we'll see that right now. And you can see it'll just toggle forever and constantly beep.
Oh, so this code is toggling between red and green forever?
Yep.
Nice.
This is to show that you can do it programmatically. Yeah. So, all right, that's let me turn those colors back off. Okay. I'm just gonna put it here for now.
Okay.
So that pretty much goes over.
Can I switch to the computer camera? So that it's like not awkward.
Okay, and yeah, that pretty much covers it. So what's nice is that, even though we're only playing it on the Raspberry Pi, so those of you that might want to know, like, all right, how do I do it from somewhere else? You can set Chirp up on a lot of other devices. They've done a lot of work. I think they also have like Arduino work as well. But for devices that, maybe you don't want Chirp installed or, you can't for whatever reason, Chirp does have its SDK lets you create audio files and just download them. So if I do Chirp audio write, and I think it was -u, I'll say purple, and then I'll just put purple.wav. If I do this command, this will generate an audio file. So if I go here inside the Raspberry Pi directory, we'll see it's there. So I can just do a play purple.wav, and then if I
here, I got you.
purple.wav.
Back. There we go.
Oh, hold on. I didn't, let me, play. Oh, accidentally killed the script. There we go. There we go.
Yay.
So now, for those of you that don't know, what this means is that you can just get the audio file and put it to your phone to whatever can play sound, and it'll work when your Pi is, or when your Matrix device is listening. So that's very powerful. In the interview from the last episode, we actually showed how I was playing it through my phone, and you can have pre-recorded audio commands so that when a device is connected offline and you have no way of interacting with it, in a nice way, you can just put in Chirp, and that's it. You're pretty much good to go.
Yeah, I mean, Chirp also has I think iOS and Android SDKs, so you could make a phone, have your phone actually generate them. I don't know how to figure it out, but there are ways.
Yeah, I mean, this is only going over the Python SDK, but also showing you the potential of what you can do with Chirp.
Yeah.
It's amazing, honestly, what they've done.
Yeah.
And for those of you that might get annoyed by the sound, they do have an ultrasonic, or pretty close to ultrasonic.
Should we switch it to us in general, or are you showing more stuff on the screen?
I think we're done.
Okay, so I'll switch it to us in general.
Yeah, let me just close the terminal. Yeah, let me close that, and there we go.
Okay, so switching to here. Okay, yeah, continue. What were you saying? Ultrasonic.
Yeah, so they do have that, different configurations for the kind of sound you want to hear. And, you can also test it on their website, to, play from your computer to see where you're going to kind of hear back.
Yeah.
And ultrasonic, for those of you that don't have, because Sam can actually hear ultrasonic, so it does bother her, but for the majority of people, probably won't bother you, but that's, an option to play around with.
It sounds cool, right? I can hear ultrasonic. It's actually sub-ultrasonic because... As the Chirp people said last time, speakers can only go from 20 to 20,000 kilohertz most of the time, and they use this top sliver, so it's sub-ultrasonic. But it was really high-pitched when I heard it, and I was like, oh no. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. Well, if you followed it along and you just want to see the guide, it ends right here. You should be set up and good to go. Feel free to visit our community at community.matrix.one for any questions and if you need any help. So now we're just going to go through announcements if you want to.
Yeah, and while we go through announcements, if you have any specific questions about Chirp, you can ask them in our live stream live chat, and we'll get to them right after the announcements. If there are no questions, always feel free to post on the community like Carlos said, or YouTube, comment, whatever. All right, so announcements really quick because we have a lot going on, but so the Bay Area Maker Faire is next week, and we will be there, the whole Matrix trio. So it's gonna be Carlos, me, Alfred. We're gonna we're gonna be there. Come see us, check out our booth.
Send us a tweet. We'll be providing some social media on what's going on there.
So yeah, definitely come check that out. We have the Snips contest in planning. It will happen around end of May is what we're shooting for, but all the content is being generated. It's really fun. Another thing, the Project 14 live stream is going to happen the week after Bay Area Maker Faire. It's the second one that we're going to be guests on. Super fun. And it's going to be a robotics theme.
Yeah, and it'll be nice. We'll show off the robot arm or something.
Right? There's a special feature we're building for it for Bay Area Maker Faire that will also show in the Project 14 live stream. And the big announcement we wanted to make, it's already been announced, but on our community, but we're finally, not finally, but we are now 100% open source. We were 99 point...
Software-wise, we're 100% open source.
Software-wise, yes.
So what was the last thing holding us back was the DSP code on our microphones in the FPGA.
Yes.
And that's all released now, so feel free to look, edit, make PRs for whatever you want to change, or fork it for your own custom setup.
Yeah.
If you want to learn and fiddle around with
the FPGA.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an FPGA programmer, but from what I've heard, you can do a lot with that stuff.
Yeah, we have a guide on at least how to get started with compiling and changing the FPGA code and compiling it. So try it out. There's some simple things that you can try to get your dip your toes in. So yeah, that's something we're super excited about. 100% open source software, and lots of fun things you can do with that.
So I think that concludes episode 123, right? 123. Okay. Is there any questions?
No questions. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. All right. So that's episode 123, and
there we go. All right. So. Hope that everything went well for you and it was informational on how to use Chirp. That's pretty much it.
Yep. Right. Thanks. Bye.